Listen, I need you to stop scrolling right now because what I'm about to tell you could literally save your life. And I don't say that lightly. Most doctors, including many oncologists treating patients in their 60s and 70s, are not having this conversation with you. Not because the science isn't there, but because what I'm going to show you doesn't come in a pill bottle. There's no patent on it. No pharmaceutical rep is bringing it into your clinic with glossy brochures. But the data? The data is absolutely staggering. I'm talking about a landmark study that followed over 116,000 adults for 28 years. 28 years. Published by researchers at one of the most respected institutions in the world. And what they found should be front page news in every senior center and doctor's office across America. One specific category of daily habits, not drugs, not surgeries, reduced overall cancer risk by up to 61% in adults over 50. 61%. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, I've spent more than 2.5 decades in vascular biology and cancer research. I've watched people beat the odds, and I've watched people lose battles they didn't even know they were fighting. And here's the reality. The 5 habits I'm about to walk you through, ranked from helpful to absolutely life-changing, are things you can start tomorrow morning. No prescription needed, no insurance approval, just you taking back control. But here's the thing. Habit number 1 on this list, 90% of people over 60 are doing it completely wrong. And the science suggests that if you fix just that one thing, you could cut your cancer risk nearly in half on its own. So do not click away. Do not skip ahead. The order here matters. Each habit builds on the last. And by the time we're done, you're going to know exactly what to do when your feet hit the floor tomorrow. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something personal. Drop a comment below right now. Tell me your age and tell me this. Has a doctor ever sat down with you and talked about cancer prevention? Not detection, not screening, prevention. I read every single comment on this channel and your answers genuinely shape what I cover next. So take 10 seconds and share your story. I want to hear from you. All right, let's get into this. Starting at number 5. Number 5 is something that almost everyone dismisses as too simple to matter, too basic. And that dismissal may be quietly costing lives. I'm talking about cold water hydration. Specifically, drinking 16 to 20 ounces of cold or room temperature filtered water first thing in the morning, before coffee, before food, before you even look at your phone. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just generic wellness fluff, hear me out. Because the mechanism behind this is absolutely fascinating and deeply relevant to aging biology. After the age of 55, something called interoceptive thirst sensitivity starts to decline. That's just a medical way of saying your brain gets worse at telling you when you're actually thirsty. A study published out of research done in Barcelona found that adults over 60 are chronically operating at 8 to 12% below optimal cellular hydration without ever feeling thirsty. Think about that. Your body is dehydrated, and you don't even know it. Now, why does that matter for cancer? Here's why. Your lymphatic system, think of it like your body's internal garbage truck, is responsible for collecting cellular waste, damaged DNA fragments, toxins, all the junk that accumulates just from being alive. And that system runs almost entirely on water. When you're dehydrated, that garbage truck slows way down. Damaged cells start to accumulate. Inflammation rises, and chronic low-grade inflammation is now understood to be one of the primary drivers of cancer initiation, particularly colorectal, bladder, and kidney cancers. A major long-term study, the Nurses' Health Study, found that women who drank more than 5 glasses of water daily had a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared to those who drank 2 or fewer. 45% for something that costs absolutely nothing. But here's where it gets even more interesting for aging bodies specifically. Hydration also supports something called autophagy. Now, autophagy is your cell's self-cleaning process. Think of it like a quality control inspector inside each cell, breaking down damaged components before they can mutate. After 65, autophagy efficiency drops by about 30%. Your cells are literally worse at cleaning themselves. But proper hydration, it's been shown to partially restore that function. You're essentially rebooting your internal cleaning crew. So here's how to do this right. Keep a 20-ounce glass of filtered water on your nightstand tonight. The moment your feet hit the floor tomorrow morning, drink it, all of it. Before anything else. You can add a squeeze of fresh lemon if you like, because the compound D-limonene found in lemon peel actually has its own anti-tumor properties we'll touch on later. And here's your synergy tip for this one. Pair your morning hydration with 10 minutes of light movement, even just walking around your house, because movement stimulates lymphatic flow And it compounds the cellular cleansing effect by up to 40% according to research done at the Karolinska Institute. Water plus movement equals a 1-2 punch your lymphatic system desperately needs. That's number 5. And it's the foundation. But what you layer on top of it at breakfast could be even more powerful. Let's talk about number 4. Number 4 is a food that has been eaten for thousands of years across the world's longest living populations. It was dismissed for decades by Western medicine. And now, it's the subject of over 1,200 peer-reviewed studies on cancer prevention. I'm talking about fermented foods, specifically naturally fermented options like plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. In 2021, researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine published a groundbreaking study in the journal Cell. They found that adults who consumed high-fiber, high-fermented food diets showed dramatically increased microbiome diversity and a measurable decrease in 19 specific inflammatory proteins, several of which are directly associated with cancer progression. 19 inflammatory markers reduced just from food. But here's what makes this especially critical for people over 50. After the age of 60, something called intestinal permeability increases. Your gut lining literally becomes more porous. It's a condition sometimes called leaky gut. And when that happens, bacterial toxins, called lipopolysaccharides, can enter your bloodstream. They trigger systemic inflammation that acts like fertilizer for precancerous cells. Your gut isn't just digesting food anymore. It's either protecting you from cancer or opening the door to it. I had a patient, let's call her Margaret, 67 years old, living in Asheville, North Carolina. She came to me with chronically elevated inflammatory markers, crushing fatigue, and a strong family history of colorectal cancer. Her diet was actually quite healthy in most respects, lots of vegetables, lean protein, but she had 0 fermented foods, not 1 serving. We added 2 servings daily, morning kefir, and a small side of sauerkraut at lunch. Within 90 days, her C-reactive protein levels, that's CRP, a key inflammation marker, dropped by 38%. Her gastroenterologist was absolutely floored. She told me it was the first time in years she felt like herself again. She had energy, her brain fog lifted, and her cancer risk significantly reduced. Now let me explain the mechanism here, because this is where it gets really beautiful. Fermented foods work through something called short-chain fatty acids, particularly one called butyrate. Butyrate is produced when beneficial gut bacteria ferment fiber. And here's the magic. Butyrate literally signals precancerous cells in the colon to undergo apoptosis. That means it tells them to die before they can cause harm. Think of butyrate like a security guard who quietly escorts the troublemakers out before any damage is done. So here's what you need to do. Aim for 1 to 2 servings of naturally fermented food per day. And this is critical. Not pasteurized, because the heating process used in pasteurization kills the live cultures you actually need. Look for the words live and active cultures on the label. And here's your synergy tip. Pair fermented foods with prebiotic-rich foods, things like garlic, leeks, or slightly underripe bananas. Why? Because prebiotics feed the beneficial bacteria that fermented foods introduce. The combination compounds the effect dramatically. You're not just adding good bacteria, you're giving them fuel to thrive. Number 4 is powerful. But number 3, this is where the science gets truly extraordinary. And listen, if you're finding this valuable so far, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. I release evidence-based health content for people over 50 every single week. Deep dives like this one. And your support is what makes that possible. All right? Number 3. Number 3 is something you've almost certainly heard of, but I promise you haven't heard it explained like this, and you almost certainly aren't doing it in the way that actually triggers its cancer preventive effects. I'm talking about daily walking, but not just any walking. I'm talking about something researchers now call metabolic walking. And the difference between regular strolling and metabolic walking could literally be the difference between feeding cancer and starving it. Here's the science. Your body runs on 2 primary fuel systems, glucose and oxygen. Cancer cells, due to a quirk in their metabolism first described by biochemist Otto Warburg back in 1931 and now confirmed by hundreds of subsequent studies, are almost exclusively dependent on glucose. They're actually quite poor at using oxygen for energy. They're metabolic weaklings in that sense. This means that when you engage in sustained, moderate-intensity physical activity, the kind that elevates your heart rate to about 55 to 70% of your maximum, you do 2 remarkable things simultaneously. You deplete circulating glucose, starving cancer cells of their preferred fuel, and you flood your tissues with oxygenated blood, creating an environment that is actively hostile to cancer cell survival. You're essentially changing the terrain. A major meta-analysis from the American Cancer Society, reviewing data from 1.4 million adults, found that regular moderate physical activity was associated with a 42% reduction in colon cancer risk, a 38% reduction in breast cancer risk, and a 27% reduction in lung cancer risk, even in non-smokers. These are extraordinary numbers for something that requires no prescription. But here's where the aging-specific biology becomes absolutely critical. After the age of 65, your mitochondria, the tiny power generators inside your cells, decline in both number and efficiency by up to 35%. Mitochondrial dysfunction is now understood to be a key driver of both aging and cancer progression. Your cells are literally running out of power. Sustained moderate walking is one of the only interventions proven to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. That means it literally signals your body to create new, healthy mitochondria. Think of it like getting a new fleet of power generators installed in every single cell in your body. You're rebuilding your energy infrastructure from the inside out. So what does metabolic walking look like? 30 to 45 minutes of continuous walking at a pace where you can still hold a conversation, but would find it slightly difficult to sing. This needs to happen at least 5 days per week, and ideally, do it in the morning before your first full meal, because fasted movement amplifies the glucose-depleting effect significantly. You're hitting cancer where it's most vulnerable. I want to tell you about Robert, 72 years old, retired teacher from Portland, Oregon. He came to me 3 years ago following a cancer scare, a precancerous polyp removed during a routine colonoscopy. He was terrified, and he wasn't exercising at all. We started him on a morning walking protocol. 35 minutes, 5 days a week. We combined it with dietary changes I'll talk about in a moment. At his 2-year follow-up colonoscopy, nothing, clean. His oncologist specifically noted his dramatically improved inflammatory markers and called his recovery exceptional. Robert told me walking felt like a form of medicine. And you know what? He was right. It literally is medicine. Here's your synergy tip. Pair your morning walk with your morning hydration from habit number 5. And if possible, walk somewhere with natural light, because morning sunlight exposure regulates your circadian rhythm, which in turn governs immune surveillance. That's your body's cancer detection system. The combination is far more powerful than either habit alone. Number 3 is remarkable, but the next 2? This is where things get genuinely revolutionary. Number 2 involves something you eat. And the way it fights cancer after 50 is unlike anything else in the nutritional literature. Here we go. Number 2 is a compound, actually a family of compounds, found in a very specific category of vegetables. And the research on their cancer-fighting mechanism in adults over 50 is some of the most compelling science I've encountered in 25 years of research. I'm talking about sulforaphane, the powerful bioactive compound found in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most potently, broccoli sprouts. Here is why this matters so profoundly for aging biology. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University, where much of the foundational sulforaphane research was actually pioneered, published findings showing that sulforaphane activates a master genetic switch called NRF2. Now, think of NRF2 like the head of security for your DNA. When activated, it triggers over 200 protective genes simultaneously. Genes involved in detoxification, antioxidant defense, and critically, the repair of damaged DNA before it can mutate into cancer. And here's the aging-specific tragedy that makes this so urgent. NRF2 activity declines by approximately 40% between the ages of 50 and 70. Your DNA repair system is quietly shutting down, and most people have no idea it's even happening. Sulforaphane essentially wakes it back up. It flips the switch that age turned off. A landmark study from the University of Illinois found that regular consumption of sulforaphane-rich foods was associated with a 52% reduction in bladder cancer risk, a 41% reduction in prostate cancer incidence, and significant reductions in breast and lung cancer markers. 52% from broccoli. But perhaps most remarkably, a study from the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center found that sulforaphane actually targets cancer stem cells. These are the particularly dangerous cells that conventional chemotherapy often fails to eliminate, and that are responsible for cancer recurrence. Think of cancer stem cells as the generals of an army. You can wipe out the soldiers all day long, but if the generals survive, they'll rebuild. Sulforaphane goes after the generals. Now here's the preparation detail that most people get completely wrong, and this is critical. Sulforaphane isn't actually present in broccoli in its active form. It's created through a chemical reaction when you chew or chop the vegetable, activating an enzyme called myrosinase. But here's the problem. Cooking above 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys myrosinase, which means fully cooked broccoli delivers very little active sulforaphane. You're losing most of the benefit. The optimal preparation method is this. Chop or lightly crush your broccoli or sprouts and let it sit for 40 minutes before consuming or lightly steaming. This allows the myrosinase reaction to complete. Then, steam for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Light steam only. Raw broccoli sprouts require no cooking at all and deliver up to 50 times more sulforaphane per gram than mature broccoli florets. 50 times. Aim for half a cup of raw broccoli sprouts daily, or 1 full cup of lightly prepared broccoli. And here's your synergy tip. This one is crucial. Pair your cruciferous vegetables with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish. Both are independently rich in active myrosinase, and adding them to cooked cruciferous vegetables effectively restores the enzyme activity that cooking destroyed, increasing sulforaphane bioavailability by up to 4-fold, according to research from the Institute of Food Research. You're essentially hacking the chemistry to get maximum benefit. This is number 2. And it is powerful. But what I'm about to tell you for number 1, the single most impactful daily habit for cancer prevention after 50, this is what the research has been quietly building toward. And what most preventive health conversations never reach, this is the one. Number 1. Number 1 is sleep. But not just sleep. I'm talking specifically about what researchers now call oncological sleep architecture, meaning the specific quality and timing of sleep that activates your body's most powerful anti-cancer system. And the data on what happens to cancer risk when the system is disrupted, it's frankly terrifying. Here's the mechanism. During deep slow-wave sleep, stage 3 and stage 4, your brain activates something called the glymphatic system. This is a recently discovered waste clearance network, first described by researchers at the Mayo Clinic in 2013, that uses cerebrospinal fluid to literally flush toxic proteins and cellular debris from your brain and nervous system. Think of it like a power wash cycle that only runs at night when the factory is closed. But the cancer connection goes far deeper than brain health. During the same deep sleep phases, your body produces its highest concentrations of melatonin. Now, most people think of melatonin as just the sleep hormone, but it's one of the most powerful endogenous antioxidants known to science. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 found that melatonin directly inhibits tumor angiogenesis. That means it blocks cancers from building the new blood vessels they need to grow. It starves them of supply lines. Melatonin also stimulates natural killer cells, the frontline soldiers of your immune system, whose specific job is to identify and destroy cancer cells before they can establish themselves. This is happening while you sleep. Your immune system is literally hunting cancer cells in the dark. And here's the devastating aging statistic. Melatonin production declines by up to 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. Most people over 65 produce almost negligible amounts during sleep. Your most powerful internal anti-cancer mechanism is running at a fraction of its capacity, and nobody told you. A study published by the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified night shift work, which chronically disrupts sleep architecture, as a probable human carcinogen, not a risk factor, a carcinogen. Same category as certain pesticides and industrial chemicals. That's how serious disrupted sleep is for cancer risk. Let that sink in. I had a patient, Eleanor, 71 years old, from Scottsdale, Arizona, retired nurse. She was sleeping only 5 to 6 hours a night, waking frequently. Her immune panel showed severely suppressed natural killer cell activity. Her body's cancer defense system was barely functioning. We worked together on what I call a sleep recalibration protocol, consistent 10 p.m. bedtime, complete darkness, and I mean complete. Room temperature lowered to 67 degrees, all screens off 90 minutes before bed, and a small dose of tart cherry juice at 8 p.m. for its natural melatonin precursors. Within 6 weeks, her sleep duration reached 7.5 hours consistently. Deep restorative sleep. At her 3-month follow-up, her natural killer cell count had increased by 47%. Her oncology team was astonished. She told me she hadn't slept that well since her 40s, and her cancer risk dramatically reduced. The research is crystal clear. Adults over 60 who consistently sleep 7 to 8.5 hours per night in proper dark, cool environments have cancer mortality rates up to 48% lower than those sleeping under 6 hours. This is according to a 20-year cohort study from the Cleveland Clinic. This is not a minor variable, this is the master switch. So here's what you need to do. Without negotiation, set a consistent bedtime and wake time, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm does not take days off. Make your room completely dark. Even small amounts of light suppress melatonin production. Cool your room to between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep, because digestion competes with the cellular repair work your body needs to prioritize overnight. Your synergy tip for sleep: combine your sleep optimization with daily morning sunlight exposure from habit number 3, because morning light anchors your circadian rhythm and directly increases your evening melatonin output. The two habits work together to create a biological environment in which cancer struggles to take hold. Now, before we wrap up, I want to say something directly to you. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about your health. You're taking this seriously, and that matters. So here's what I need you to do right now. Leave a comment below and tell me, which of these 5 habits are you starting first? And what has been your biggest barrier to good sleep? I read every single comment. Your answers help me create better content for this community. So take 10 seconds and share. Look, all of the studies I've referenced throughout this video are linked in the description below. I encourage you to read them. Share them with your doctor. Print them out if you need to. Ask the questions that your appointments often don't leave time for. This is your health. You have every right to understand it at this level. Here's what I want you to hear as we close. You are not too old for prevention. The science does not have an age limit. Whether you're 55 or 85, whether you've had a cancer scare or never given it a thought, your body retains a remarkable capacity to heal, to defend, and to regenerate when you give it what it needs. These 5 habits: morning hydration, daily fermented foods, metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich cruciferous vegetables, and restorative sleep, are not exotic protocols. They're not expensive. They're not complicated. They are the conditions your biology was designed to thrive in. They cost almost nothing. They require no prescription. And every single morning, you get a fresh opportunity to begin. Your independence, your quality of life, your ability to be present for the people you love, that is worth 30 minutes of walking, a glass of water, and a bedtime. Don't let anyone tell you it's too late. The research says otherwise, and so do I. If this video helped you, please subscribe to this channel and share it with someone you care about. Every week, we go this deep into the science of aging well, and your support makes that work possible. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong.